if I want to find f of negative 2 and then subtract g of 5, hopefully you understand we're going to put negative 2 into the f function, find the value, and then we're going to put 5 into the g function, find the value, and then are we going to subtract the two values? So watch how this looks. We're going to take the f function, which is x cubed, and in this situation, so x is negative 2 cubed minus 5 times negative 2, because that's what we're plugging in, minus 1. Are we okay? That's the first function. We took f and plugged in negative 2. Hopefully that kind of seems reasonable to you. Now we're going to take g and plug in 5. So we're plugging 5 into g. And now you have to do basic order of operations, which is some of your big problems. Is you can do algebra. Some people struggle with adding, subtracting, and multiplying. It's like that is their worst subject. So let's be careful and do this correctly. Order of operations states exponents come first, then multiplying, dividing. Now, by the way, there's no parentheses. Or sorry, there are parentheses, but there's nothing in parentheses to be done. So can we skip parentheses? So let's do exponents. So what's negative 2 to the third?
8.
Negative 8. Got it? Now technically we should wait to do the multiplication, but can we, since we did that exponent, can we now multiply negative 5 and negative 2 as well? Because that's, I kind of can see it, I'm doing two steps at once, but hopefully negative 5 times negative 2 you can see is positive 10. Are we okay with that? Now the other piece, are we going to do what first? Exponents. So what's 5 squared? 25. Then put the negative on it. Do you see how we squared then made it negative? That's mind-boggling for some. Then we multiply. What's 3 times 5?
15.
Positive 15. All right. A little bit cleaner now. I did multiple steps in each. Let's now combine the rest. Now, is it all adding, subtracting left? So what is negative 8 and 10? Positive 2. I have the minus 1 still. Minus. And what does this give us? Is that negative 10? Alrighty. Now what's 2 minus 1? Hopefully that's pretty easy. My sarcasm. And then negative 1, negative 1. So a minusing a negative 10. Isn't that a positive 10? And my final answer, hopefully you see, is 11. Alrighty, for number 2 here, we're going to take the function f of x and subtract 2 times g of x. So our answer will be a polynomial. So let's do this. F of x is x cubed minus 5x minus 1. And we're going to subtract 2 times g of x. G of x is, it looks like, negative x squared plus 3x. So we're simply doing what it said, taking f and subtracting 2 times g. Now this can be simplified. That's always the thing you're going to do next. It says build. Building means make it and then simplify it as well. Sorry, I didn't put the word simplify. So can you tell we have to distribute here? If you see a negative 2 that distributes, I'm going to rewrite the first piece. And I can drop the parentheses here. You'll see why. So I rewrote the first piece because that's what we started with. When I multiply negative 2 times negative x squared, are we okay? That's positive 2x squared. And then when I multiply negative 2 times positive 3x, can you see that's negative 6x? You got to be careful. That's a negative 2 times and negative 2 times. Now all my parentheses are gone because Once you distribute the negative, you can draw parentheses and combine like terms. Now, are any of these terms combining? Can you see how the x's combine? Won't these combine? Anything else? No. So let's write my answer in standard form, though. So we start with the highest power, which is the x cubed. Which, is this going to be a third degree polynomial? Okay, that's your highest power. Okay, next highest power is x squared. So that's 2x squared. Then comes the x's, which a negative 5 and a negative 6 is negative 11x. And lastly, we have the minus 1. So that right there is your standard form polynomial when you take and do these operations. It's a 4 terms. It is a third degree polynomial. If this was a graph, if we were to graph this, can you tell us that disco dancer? If we were to graph this, can you tell it looks something like this? Possibly. Upward, disco dancing, kind of woohoo. And it's a positive direction. Don't need to do that, just good for understanding. All right, the last one here, we are taking f times g. When I write that out, it'll look something like this. F of x is x cubed minus 5x minus 1 times g, which is negative x squared plus 3x. And hopefully when you see this, you see a FOIL. It's a rather large foiling, and I tend to like to use the box. So I'm going to make a box to do this one. You could do it without the box if that works better for you. I just think the box does these really well. I'm going to put the negative x squared there, and the positive 3x there, and the x cubed minus 5x, and a minus 1. And we're going to do the box, which is a multiplication table. We're going to be multiplying this times this, this times this, this times this, this times this, and putting it right there. We're just going to do like a multiplication table box. Combine like terms, and we're done. So, the first box, you just got to be careful. An x squared negative times a positive x to the third. Do you understand you're going to add powers when you do this? And by the way, do you see that as a negative 1 in front? So negative 1 times 1, are you okay? That's a negative 1. So hopefully you can see this is going to be a negative x to the what power? A squared and a third is you add powers, so it's the fifth. All right, let's do this one. And 3x times x to the third. Well, the 3 is going to stay in front. And x times x to the third is x to the fourth. So this is going to be a 3 x to the fourth. All right. Now this one is going to be negative x squared times negative 5x. So a negative times a negative is a positive 5. X to the what? What's an x squared times an x if we add the powers? Can you see it's a third? All right, then we have negative 5x times 3x. Isn't that negative 15? X to the... x times x, isn't that x squared? That's a common one, x squared. All righty. Now negative x squared times negative 1. Negative x squared times negative 1, isn't that a positive x squared? And the last one, a 3x times a negative 1, negative 3x. Do any of those boxes combine? Sometimes lots combine, sometimes nothing really does. This one does have something. Are these the only two that combine? So let's write our answer out. I have a negative 5x to the fifth. Oh, no. That is wrong. Let me scratch that out. My eraser doesn't always work. Let me just scratch it out. Negative x to the fifth, right? And then next is the fourth power, which is a positive 3x to the fourth. Then we have the cube, so that's positive 5x cubed. And when we combine negative 15x squared and positive x squared, is that a negative 14? Negative 14x squared. And we have that lonely negative 3x left over. So that would be my standard form solution. How many terms are there? Do you see 5 terms? 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. What degree is it? 5th degree polynomial, 5 terms. It's a negative a value. So is this the disco dancer or the W or the M? This is the odd power. Can you tell it's disco dancing? But it's going downhill. So it's going to look like it's like this. Possibly. I don't know how many humps there are, but it could have up to 5 zeros. But it looks something like that. Downhill disco dancing. Up to 5 zeros because the degree tells you how many possible zeros you could have. Up to 5. This could have up to 3 zeros.